Mel, this is a pretty special week for us because we're getting to speak to this amazing person who was huge and has continued to be huge. His career's been fantastic right throughout the early 2000s to now. It is an absolute honor to have Ryan Cabrera on the podcast this week. G'day,
Oh,
Ryan.
yeah. I need you to do all my intros. That was fantastic.
Oh, mate, we're a bit rusty. We worked on radio back in the day, so we
Uh,
had a bit of practice, but that was a
did
long
you have
ago.
did you have a different voice for like your radio voice versus the way you talk at home?
No, 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 no. We were like new school, like when we were working with like some of the old school radio guys, though, in the business, it'd be like, "G'day,
Yeah.
mate, how's it going?" And it'd
That's
be,
yeah, there it is.
it's
Yeah, we're back.
yeah.
WPPR 103.
Just very quickly before we get right into it, the LA fires. Obviously, we're in Australia here. We're no stranger to that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
check in and make sure everything's okay with you, your friends, family.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Luckily for us, like where we're at out here is a bit away from uh, a lot of the real threats at that time. So we were luckily we didn't get evacuated or anything like that. But I do obviously just everybody here is a community.
Mm.
Mm.
It's gonna be a crazy road. But I think a lot of people this is like a time with even with all the craziness and the bad shit that was going on that were catching people lighting fires and stuff. This is definitely a community that'll come together and like artists as well. I know there's a lot of fundraising concerts and stuff we're gonna do, and
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a time to just help each other. I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely thinking of everyone over there.
Even if you're not directly affected by it, it just pulls you in. And I think that's when you sort of go into that mode of like resilience and anything you can do to help anyone else. And it's as much as it's a horrible time, it's also quite wonderful to see how communities do come together in the wake of a crisis. And it reminds you of what being a human being is actually like, or should
Yep.
be like. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about you. We have got
Okay.
the 20th anniversary re-release of your
Yep.
single On the Way Down coming up. Before we get into that, let's do a quick rewind because that's what we like to do on this show. We rewind 20 years. So
Okay.
this is
Okay.
perfect. This is
We're
perfect
going
time
back.
for us. So we're going back. Ryan Cabrera, this is your early 2000s life.
The hair is spiky. It's fully
Yeah.
out like
Let's
that.
let's take a moment for the hair actually, because
Okay.
your hair, incredible,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. It was a work of art, and I've always
I'll
wanted to
take it.
know, were you using the TG bedhead wax stick? Is that how you achieved? What product were you using to get that?
It was, you're very close. I know exactly what you're talking about. I wanted to use that stick, that bedhead wax stick, but it made my hair more limp, and I was going really like,
Ah,
very
solid.
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so there was a bedhead product that they don't doesn't exist anymore. It was this really slim orange can. I think it was like a wax. It was a spray wax.
Oh yes.
But for some, yeah, and it used to get like caught all the time. So I use one can. I was going through, I kid you not, maybe 12 cans of that entire thing a week when I was on tour because it was
Wow.
every day.
Wow.
Except for, I take it back because usually day like two for me was always the best hair day. I didn't touch that day.
Yeah. Wow. This
Yeah,
is
when
like
it's
So I wasn't using them every day, but like every other day.
it's like a massive hole in the ozone layer. Just
I know. I
yeah.
apologize. It's a lot of hairspray.
It's okay, man. When you do like an album cover, you almost have to do like a gatefold just so you could fit like the
Oh, it
hair.
was very important. Yeah, I make sure that the hair fit in all the pictures.
It was a complete work of art. I thought it was fantastic,
I
So it
actually.
was funny is just to me at that time, like obviously looking back now, I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, I was like, that time, that was normal to me. Like
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
seemed completely normal. But I would go to the airport and, because I was doing my hair like every day. That's how I did my hair. I always had like weird, whatever hair, but I was so used to it. And I thought it was normal. I go to the airport and be like, oh, and look at my hair. I'm like, what? I was like, what? It's fantastic. Yeah. Fast forward, like I started seeing people like doing like similar kind of things, whether it has anything to do with me or not. But it's still like I was like, oh, that's how I used to do it.
Own it, man. Own it. You're a trailblazer.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
and the
Happy to have some.
Right. And your look has evolved, whereas me, like I'm still dressing like I was 14 years old and I'm like 50 almost. So, it's
Hey,
not,
it's what's comfortable.
well,
Gotta stay comfortable.
especially when you go up, mate. It's all about comfortable, good footwear,
100%.
comfortable
Yep.
shoes, all of that sort of
I'm a
stuff.
Croc guy. I live in Crocs,
Yeah.
so
You know what?
yeah.
I never used to be a Croc guy, but I'm starting to embrace the Croc.
I wasn't either. I was the guy. I was a hater. I'll
Mm.
be honest, because I had all my friends. A couple of them would wear them, and I'm like, God, it looks terrible. Like, what the heck is that? And they're like, dude, you got to try it. It's so comfortable. I'm like, absolutely not. I would never do that. And I tried on his. I was like, this is glorious. And I bought many, many, many pairs since then.
Have you got the accessories? What are they called? The giblets?
Oh, the gibbets.
Yes,
Gibbets,
that's
yeah.
it. Have you?
Yeah, because I have the ones that come with the gibbets because I bought the Margaritaville, like the Jimmy Buffett ones, which comes with a shot glass gibbet. It's got a lime gibbet. It's got a bottle opener gibbet.
Yeah.
So that was obvious, what happened to happen there. And then I have a lot of Disney ones that come with the gibbets. And what was the new? Oh, I just got the Buddy the Elf ones.
Oh, for Christmas, just in time for
Yep.
Christmas.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That is incredible. Early 2000s fashion, though, besides the hair, I recall there was a time as well when you brought kind of ties from business attire into punk, rock, everyday
Oh,
wear. You were
yeah.
like a big proponent of the tie. Did you just
And
grab dad's tie
it was
one
the
day?
big tie. It was what started it was on Jay Leno. You remember Jay Leno talked? It's like the Tonight Show
Yeah,
era.
yeah.
So I was doing that, and I had my wardrobe. But at that time, I was wearing a lot of Diesel. Like Diesel I was obsessed with it. But I had my Diesel shirt and I had my wardrobe like done, and then I saw this like big, really ugly tie that it looked like something like my grandpa wore. And so I was like, oh, would this be funny? And I always like, mess around and stuff. So I was like, oh, wouldn't this be hilarious if I wore like this grandpa looking big ass tie? And then I kind of just thought it was dope. So I
Yeah.
was like, I kind of like it. Like, and now, like, the past 10 years, I'm a skinny tie kind of guy. So I was like, I would never wear a big tie. But it's funny because back then I thought it was awesome. And then I remember throwing one out at the end of a concert just randomly. And then it became a thing, and then started throwing one out every single night. So that was the thing for fans at that time, was like everybody would try to win the tie and they'd fight over it.
What a merchandising opportunity.
I reckon.
Yeah, and we did. Yeah, so I started we had the big fat ties with my logo on it as merch. Thank you. Getting you can't get more LA than this, ladies and gentlemen, down there in Australia. This is a $20 Air One Los Angeles smoothie.
Wow.
Why it's $20, I don't know, but let's find out.
Is it good?
I've heard about these.
Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's my wife's, but she knows I want to try it. There you go, man. That was fantastic. That's so good.
It's like a $5.
First time. $20 Air One smoothie.
Wow. Wow. There's
It's
an
6 a.m.
for you, right?
My wife's concerned about your time zone. I mentioned Australia. She's behind the camera. She's like, isn't it 1 a.m. there?
No. Don't worry. Don't worry, Lexi.
She's concerned for you.
We're parents. We would have been awake. Anyway.
What? Yeah, she's getting twisted up because she doesn't realize we're West Coast time.
Right, of course.
The Hailey Bieber smoothie.
Wow, the Hailey Bieber.
Is that
damn good.
Really called?
Is that what it's officially called?
Or is that
Yes.
What,
No, that is. I would ask the exact same question because she
that?
ordered it on the app. I was like, did it actually say Hailey Bieber smoothie? Yes, it did.
What is in it? What's in it? Do you know?
It's like a strawberry, banana, maple syrup, dates, coconut crisps, and then a couple other like words that I've never heard of, but it's like vitamins and stuff.
That's like crazy.
That's what makes it $20.
Yeah. This is what
the
happens.
vitamins.
This is what happens when you marry someone who's like fit and healthy and all that sort of stuff. You just sort of along for the ride, aren't you?
I wish she could hear what you're saying right now. He's like, must be great being married to someone who's, really fit and healthy and into the health stuff. Yeah, she just fell over. So my wife, and she knows this about her, has basically the palate of a 15-year-old. Not that It's bad, but yep. So yeah, chicken tendies and French fries till the day I die, she says.
Right. Nice. Nice.
So I'm actually the one that tries to. I've always been trying to eat healthy and stuff. So I'm like, man, should we do this? She's like, why? Because it's healthy. She's like, no.
Yeah, there you go. Well, see, that's good for
Yeah,
her career as well. So good for you. Like it's
yeah. No,
like
she's one of those people that just naturally just always looks good. It's really
yeah,
annoying.
yeah, that is it.
Doesn't matter what she eats.
Yeah. So let's talk about your early 2000s life, like we were saying. You're pretty young. How old were you around 2004? You were early 20s?
Uh, 20, 21,
Yeah,
20, yeah,
21 years
21,
old. So
21.
on
Had
you
my first cocktail that year.
wow. Oh yeah, because it's
Oh,
like legal
drinking
drink.
age.
See, over here it's 18, right? So
Yeah, I
um
know. So it
so
should be.
you're signed to Atlantic Records in 2002. On the Way
Yep.
Down debuts in May 2004. It peaks at number 15. It's your first major label album. Take it away. August 17, 2004 sells over 2 million copies. How 21-year-old brain, like I'm 21 years old, I'm scratching my ass bumping into things,
I still have 21-year-old brain.
right? But you like I
Stay
mean,
right there.
how do you take that on board? How do you cope with all of that success so early?
You, you know what it was is because it was for me at least because everybody's journey is different. It was I had been playing out and doing concerts for maybe at that point like real like 4 years,
Mm,
but playing every single like open mic night, the corner of a Chinese food restaurant. I played in a Mexican food restaurant. I was going door to door to sorority houses, just asking if I could sing for them. So it was like all of that, playing for nobody kind of thing. And over time, I think it builds, that resilience, and it made me just be like, this is just what I do, So I paid a lot of dues, but most people think like, oh, it happened overnight because they didn't see you one day, then now they see you. But I was like, no, for me, it was just such a long hill of a journey that when I got there, it was like, I appreciated it from
yeah,
jump,
yeah,
like because I worked so much the opposite way that I think that's what kind of helped me.
yeah, and
And
that
I was like, I'm having fun. Like
yeah,
I love, I want to make people happy with the songs that I write and have fun doing it. And
yeah,
that was always my mindset. So,
yeah.
and really just keep good people around you. Is all you got to do.
Of course, and music is fun, but I guess it's also you are making yourself extremely vulnerable to an audience with your songs as well.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to sort of carry, I think, too, Um, uh,
I always looked at it for me as I was just excited if the song meant something to them.
mhm,
So like so for me, the vocal part, I was like, I never even thought about myself or putting myself out there through song. It was more so like, all right, do that, and then they're gonna take that and they're gonna apply it to their life, and if
yeah,
it affects them, then that's why we do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Who were some of your biggest inspirations when you were starting out? Who was on your iPod Nano or your iPod Classic back in
Oh
the
my
day?
god, you
Yeah.
mean my like the yellow cassette tape Walkman?
Yeah.
Ah,
It
the
was
sports version. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Amazing.
the Dave Matthews was like my first. Well, I started out in like punk rock music, so it was like early Green Day, No Effects, and stuff like that. And then, so that's always what I thought I wanted to do or be like. And then when I heard Dave Matthews, I was like, that's what I want to do. I was like, and I saw him, and I just everything about the way he played guitar, and
Mhm.
that's kind of how I taught myself how to play guitar was watching Dave Matthews and like how he did what he did.
Yeah.
So he definitely Dave. That time it was like Matchbox 20 and Goo Goo Dolls, and that was what led me to eventually work with Johnny. Was Evan asked me that question, is like, dude, out of all the artists, who are your favorite artists? Like, who do you look up to? Who are your inspiration about that are current now? And I was like, Dave Matthews, Rob Thomas, and Johnny Resnick.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, I'll reach out to him. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Like that's a thing. You can just do that.
Mm.
And he played in my stuff, and then ended up going over to Johnny's house and singing for him, and then we're like, dude, let's make a record together.
Wow. So what's that first meeting
Yeah.
like? I mean, you've got all of this, they say never meet your heroes, right? But
Yeah.
but I mean, what's that first meeting like when you go to his
Um,
house and he wants to make an album with you?
I consider that was like the young and dumb Ryan, but in the sense of like the naive kind of young and dumb. So where I would think now, like, oh man, I was probably nervous, intimidated because this is one of your heroes.
Mm.
At that time, I wasn't even, I don't think I was smart enough to think that anything that way yet. I
Mm.
was more so like, all right, good. In my head, at that, I had that confidence of like, hey, he's lucky to be working with me kind of
Yeah.
attitude, which
Yeah.
is it's just funny. But so when I got there and went to his house, I was like, this is where I want to be, one day. So I want to do this, and here, let me play my stuff, and um, I know you're gonna like it. Is that I wasn't cocky, but like it was more so a mindset of, like this is what I should be doing, so
Mm.
I'm gonna do it. And that's like how it works out, because later in life you start to think about everything,
Yeah,
and you're
that's right.
overthinking, and it changes
Yeah.
you know how you probably act or react to people. So at that time, like, I didn't
Yeah.
even think.
Because I
It
mean,
was just,
if you could like bottle and sell that moxie and that drive that you have in your early 20s and put it in
yeah,
one of those, that's when
there's
that
no such thing
smoothie,
as no.
put it in the smoothie. That's when it becomes
Yeah, yeah,
money, right? You could have
you can
that
teach
before.
that.
Because you're right. Like all of that doubt starts to come in sort of later on in life.
Of
So I
course,
guess
yeah, life,
it's a
yeah.
really good time, right? Yeah.
Life starts to happen. Yeah, if you could bottle that, but with like what now,
Yeah.
the
Mm.
knowledge of now and life, and then but apply that part to everything. It'd be,
That's the lifelong dilemma, isn't it, really? It's
yeah.
you mentioned Dave Matthews Band there as well. I used to work as a roadie back in the day, like 20 years ago
Oh, really?
for a heavy metal band, right? And so we'd
Uh-huh.
go on stage and they'd be doing all their stuff and it'd be loud music all the time. But we used to listen to Dave Matthews in the tour bus after the gigs just to kind of unwind because you can't go a bazillion miles an hour all the time. And it was
Yeah, and then put it back on.
I love them, but there was a big milestone 20 years ago for the Dave Matthews Band as well in Chicago. Do you know this story? Where
Oh, is this the tour bus
the
dumping?
tour, yeah. So we
That
discovered,
was 20 years ago.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God, time really does fly, because that feels like a year ago to me.
Um,
Hearing that story.
and I think it's like rules on tour. Like I didn't know that you were allowed to shit on the tour bus, and the
That is rule number one. That is definitely rule number one. But there are some tricks that you figure out after the years.
there are some tricks. Do tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known guys in the band. You just bring a grocery bag, you put it in the toilet,
Yeah,
hit your number deuce, and then take the grocery bag, and
batting
then
up like a dog.
dispose of it properly
Yeah, yeah,
in
of
the
course.
Not in a
trash,
river.
not out the window or into a lake or river.
Yeah, that's good. Look at that. Like we're 10 minutes into the conversation and I've started to bring up shit. Well done.
Hmm. Always comes up.
Absolutely. Always, always. So early 2000s music industry, vastly different. The
Mm.
landscape, vastly different.
Yeah,
There was streaming hadn't really come in. We were still dealing with things like Napster and LimeWire
right.
and things like that. What we saw it from the other side, didn't we? Working
Yeah,
in radio.
working in radio, when new singles or albums came out, we'd have the record company call us up, and the biggest thing was to get the single on radio, and they'd be like, "We'll give away prize packs, we'll give you a bottle of
Hmm.
bourbon if you give this song some airplay."
Yeah,
Yeah.
the old
And then
payola days.
yeah,
Hmm.
it was very much up to the label as to what was going to happen, the success of the single. They'd bring artists in to
Yeah.
play for us.
And that was really interesting. Like you'd have like these really young artists, and a lot of them were local, but occasionally they'd bring international ones to
Mhm.
Australia for the mainly not a lot of times because it's too expensive to bring someone new out. They need to be established here, but they would come and they would play in the boardroom to a group of
Yep.
crusty radio DJs and sales reps who would just be standing there like that. And it was
Oh, I remember all
some
that.
of the most awkward.
Mm.
So that was the same. They put you through that as well. You had,
Oh yeah, yeah. The radio, you every single station, you go boardrooms, and it was we were doing like three a day,
yeah.
and yeah, it's very sure. Luckily for me, I think one of the benefits of the way I kind of came up, at least to get signed, was I had to go into a room with the president of whatever label, Universal, whoever, and they would just go, all right, impress me.
Mm,
Like, do I start singing now? Is that how I should impress you? It is just so weird and awkward, and having you do that, 100 times, and you're just used to it. So when it came time to do like the radio boardrooms, I was like, oh, I got this shit. I was like, I'm gonna have this room fucking cracking up, and I would do things that most other artists probably weren't doing,
mm,
and it was just having fun with it, and making them laugh and taking the awkwardness out of it. So I actually at that point I actually kind of enjoyed it because I was like,
yeah.
all right, let me see how if I can get them. It's
Mm.
it's easy to go to a room if it's specific fans that are there to see you, but if it's that radio boardroom,
Yeah.
uh, it's like, all right, how can I turn this around and make this fun?
It's a challenge. And I guess when you've been hustling like up until
Yeah,
that
that's
point,
Yeah.
like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it prepares you for the all those rooms. But yeah, the music industry just in general, obviously with social media as well, is such a different tool that we didn't have in the early 2000s. If you wanted, that was basically what we would call like our fan clubs or pages and forums. Like
Mm.
it was back like the original, like the chat rooms and the forums is like the original Twitter,
Mm,
essentially, like that. And then fans would go on there, and that was how they found out or stayed connected. And nowadays with social media, it's so much easier to access, people, new fans, old fans, in like a second
yeah.
versus having to go. You have to go see that person live to figure out what they were doing in life.
And
It's
so,
so,
Back then.
it is so different, isn't it, too? Because I remember back in the day when we were interviewing artists,
mm,
we would get a printout of their bio, usually on colored paper
Mhm.
if they were feeling a bit fancy with black ink. And that was what you had to go on. Whereas now, like just preparing to chat to you today, I feel like a stalker. I feel like I know you
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
because
like, did that really happen? Is that true?
you're on the socials, so we can get a feel for what you get up to. I have seen the Crocs on socials. Very
yeah.
impressive, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yep.
Um, but also you have that real-time interaction and that real-time feedback from the fans and just from anyone who wants to comment. How do you find that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because it is very different to the old fan club days where you could, I guess,
Right.
have that filter or that layer where you wouldn't receive all of the information and then you'd have someone
Right.
kind of feeding the information back. So you could curate it to some degree.
Yeah. I've always been I have like a love hate relationship with it. I love it because I think it's incredible that I can just go boom and send
Mm,
a new video, a clip of a song, or I have an idea of something to I'm gonna do a show tonight. Come watch. That part is incredible. I'm not like one to try to create content just for the sake of content. It's just
mm,
not what I am good at. I like to write songs and entertain and DJ, do that kind of stuff. But like, I have friends who are just like good at it, and they're like
yeah.
their stuff looks so cool. I was like, I've never really had the desire to like get into it to be like a Instagrammer or whatever they call it.
There's
Just for
certain,
me personally, I was like, it's just I'm not. I don't really love it. I think it's great for other people, and I love that there's ways to monetize it and make money from it. So I think it's good as long as you're not,
there's a
consume your
tipping
life.
point though, right? Isn't there? There's a tipping point where it's like almost too much information. Like I used to love the
Yeah,
first Wednesday of every month where I'd go and buy my favorite music magazine and I'd read about the artists that I looked up to
hmm
there, and there was a little bit of an element of mystique about it all. Whereas now
yeah,
it's just all out there. And,
yeah,
and
and I think that's the way for me should be because as an artist, it's like here's my art. Here's the songs, here's the stories. Here's what I was thinking. But then when it comes to like the other part of your life,
mm,
like you should know half the stuff about people.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I think we're so lucky that we're of a generation where we were able to have our formative years before social
Yeah.
media in a lot of ways.
oh yeah,
Because it's,
yeah,
yeah,
stuff to look forward to. Like you just reminded me, like I remember getting excited about every Monday or whatever. Like new CDs were coming out, or
yeah.
remember, I don't know if you remember, Columbia or Sony had those. I don't know if they did it out there, but you get like 10 CDs for the price of one, and they would come with these little stamps, and
Ah,
all the stamps for the album covers. Oh, so you guys didn't have it. Oh, it was
No,
amazing. So you get this big booklet of like thousands of stamps, and all the stamps were like, Nirvana and Utero, Soundgarden, or whatever, all the different bands, Bush, whoever, and it had the album cover, so it looked really cool. And you would spend like the entire day choosing your 10 CDs that you were going to get in the mail the next week. And
oh,
like
wow.
you would wait every day, you check the mail, be like, are they here? Are they here? Pick all that. It was like it was an experience,
Yeah.
to find the music, to get to hear the music, versus now is, I think, a little bit less of an experience.
Yeah, it was
mm,
What we did.
Yeah, and it's something that I actually I mean, midlife crisis, right? So started collecting vinyl. And I did it because
Oh, I love it.
there was no ritual involved in my music list. I was passively consuming music and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to sit down and listen and experience an album from start to finish and read the lyrics and look at the artwork and take in the whole package. And I found that I was taking that for granted. And I didn't even
Yeah.
realize it's like, 10 years into like streaming, or it's just like I can put something on, I can fast forward, I can do whatever. None of this stuff where you'd be worried about too many, like wasting the batteries on your Walkman because you got to go to the next track. You endure the one
Yeah.
that you sort of was okay to get to the good stuff. So that ritual, I think, was really critical. And I think that's happening now with live music, right? Like there's still that ritual in performing.
Oh yeah. Well, you're seeing I think maybe 2 years ago is where it started. Well, not exactly, but like a year, 2 years ago, you started seeing all these bands that you loved, just pop up out of nowhere. Like, oh my God, so touring, and the same thing happens with us. I'm sure there's people when they see like our Pop 2000 tour and see we're going like, oh my God, I didn't even know they were still touring. It's like, yeah, we all have, but the past couple of years especially has been an amazing resurgence for live shows and going to see the shows, and people are spending money
Yeah.
at these
Yep.
shows, which is shocking because I know how things are getting so expensive, and it's
Mm.
so people can't afford eggs, but they'll come to a concert and they'll buy a t-shirt, a sticker, lyrics, all this stuff, and I'm like, it's pretty amazing to see, because there was a time when it's like times are too tough, and I don't have enough money to go to a concert and get this and this, but people are supporting at live music, I think, more than ever, and our concerts are getting bigger and bigger every year. We're on year 7, maybe 8, 7 or 8,
oh,
Mm.
wow.
and because of this resurgence of live music and people actually spending the money to go see shows, like they realizing that experience makes their entire week, month better. So it's worth. Music is one of those things that's just always worth spending money on, obviously.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to the point, yeah, the live music scene is better than it's ever been.
Mm.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. And I think too, people are moving towards this idea of experience, particularly after COVID and not having the ability to go out and do things. There's been this real shift towards experience over things. So
Mm-hmm.
it's great to see people touring again and that momentum building once again. In terms of performance too, like early 2000s, I need to ask, it was peak MTV, TRL. I remember I
The
was in
best.
2003 and I was walking through Times Square doing the tourist thing, and there were all these screaming girls on the side of the pavement just going crazy. I was like, what is that? And someone said, oh, that's kind of where they do TRL up there. Oh, there's a little Bow Wow, I think it was at the time. And I was just,
Mhm.
wow, you were part of that. What was that like?
That's definitely one of those things. Like if you look back and you, okay, what about coming out 20 years ago is like your favorite part? That for sure was always like, because I grew up watching that,
Yeah.
and be like, one day I'm gonna go to that window. That was
Yeah.
always in the back of my mind. I was like, I want to do that. And so getting to actually do that, many times is like, incredible. So that's the stuff that it feels like just yesterday you were doing that kind of thing, because it was such a cool experience.
Yeah.
just to get to do that.
And I heard too, when you did one of your performances, if this is correct, if the internet is telling me the truth, that you mixed it up and you went actually down outside and performed
Oh yeah.
outside.
Yeah. So the
Who would
first
have
time I went,
hated you?
I know. Oh my God, MTV hated me because I was like, all those people have been down there since last night.
Yeah.
They waited 15 hours. I was like, why am I going to perform up here when all
Oh,
those people are down there? So they're like, yeah, that's not really how it works. I was like, let's make it work, and they made it happen. So they just brought a mic stand down. They just had to figure out the technical part of getting a mic down there off the whim or off the cuff, and
Yeah.
brought it out in the middle of all those people and did on the way down acoustic.
that's incredible.
That is a nightmare for a film crew. I work in
Oh
video
yeah,
production
they
these
they're
days.
like, okay, we're bringing one camera down. They only brought one camera down, one cam and one microphone and
Yeah,
a plug for
they
my
start
guitar.
stipulating rules back. They're like, you'll get one camera and you can have your
Yeah,
guitar and one microphone, and that's it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, because they have everything set up in their studio for a reason, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. And they're like, look at this guy. That's amazing, though. You push the envelope, and it obviously worked for you because you ended up hosting. Like, you've got this natural ability to present and do all that sort of stuff. So I'm thinking those radio boardrooms and all of that sort of stuff gave you that grounding to actually then get
Yeah.
in there and host shows. We watched an episode of Score last night,
Oh yeah.
and that
That
was great.
Yeah.
So I think even that show was a little bit ahead of its time in the fact of the dating shows and people wanting to see people date, that kind of thing. And then also music and songwriting, later down the road, once, some more music driven shows started doing well on
Yeah,
TV.
yeah,
I think that like time period could have been like, I think that show could come out now and still be a
Mm.
pretty like a fun concept because it shows what it's like to write a song, but then there's the competition aspect, and then there's the she. So for those of you who don't know, Score, it was a dating show mixed with songwriting, where the person who chose uh, say the girl was not blindfolded but next to a wall.
Mm.
She chose who she's going to go on a date with based on which song she likes better or voice she likes better. Now the kink was we had 24 hours, so one day to write the song.
Mm.
So I would write it with the contestants, and we'd just see what we come up with, and then my band would learn it, and then we'd go perform it, and then she or he would pick who they wanted to go on a date with. That was actually really, really fun. It was cool, and it was cool too, because it was on after TRL every day. So for me, just as a fan, it was really just awesome to be like, oh my God, I'm on after TRL every day.
Yeah.
One of those, like if you would have told me in late high school or whatever, like one day I'd have my own show and it's going to be after TRL every day, like when kids get home from school, I would have thought you're crazy, but it was fun.
It was really cool to watch, and it is a great concept. I like once you get
It was
over
too expensive. That was the other problem.
really well.
It was yeah.
You've got the
It was too much
band.
production because MTV plays music videos and
Yeah,
has that kind of stuff in reality shows, and this one was like the budget was too big, so they're like, it's
oh,
costing us. This is the
oh,
most like expensive show I think in MTV history.
mate, MTV don't play music videos anymore.
No,
Haven't
then
for a
back
long
then they
time.
did.
Yeah, they
This
did.
is back then.
They did. What I liked when I was watching it, I think, was seeing that you were fantastic, like working with the contestants,
Oh,
and
thank you.
you obviously don't know who you're going to get, but to have that patience to actually coach them through, because you're dealing with someone who's obviously a musician to a certain level as well. They're reasonably established, because most of the musicians on there were quite good. And then I was watching the band on it and looking at the body language for the band when these dudes walk in and they're like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it just
Well,
like,
because these kids are coming in and they're trying to tell some of these musicians who have been on tour for 15 years with some of the biggest bands, and then you have this kid from Venice who's like, you have to play like this, and you need a little more feel and fingers. And so our like Taylor Ethan would just be like, all right, bud,
yeah.
cool. I was a little more patient than the band was with some of these kids, but there was a lot of hours spent and probably a lot that didn't make the show. That we would have probably shown some frustration at points, but eventually you're just like, okay, but it's your song, at the end of the day, so I'm just here to help.
Mate, the end results were great though. Like that's what
Yeah, we
surprised
wrote a lot
me
of
the
great
most.
songs.
Yeah.
Like I was watching it
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, this is going to be a disaster. This guy's coming with this attitude. I'm looking at the body language of the band, like having worked with bands, you can just tell straight away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They
And
didn't
it's
hide
like
that.
and so you see that, you're like, this is going to be a complete train wreck. And then the end result was always
It's really good.
really pristine. It was great. And I think that's
Yeah.
largely thanks to the band and you
Yeah.
Yeah.
coaching these guys. But like, what an amazing concept for a show, and what a amazing job to do. You know, I
Oh, it
mean,
was so fun. That was such a good time. And I still, keep in touch with maybe like five or six of those contestants. One of them went on to be one of my really, really close friends, and she wrote "If I Were a Boy" for
oh
Beyonce.
yeah, wow.
She was one of the contestants on the show, and then another one of the cats went on to be on Glee, the TV show Glee, and then there's another cat who was like a huge influencer now that I saw. I'm like, what? I was like, you have what? He's like, dude, I'm making these videos. I'm an influencer now. I'm like, all right. And so it was cool to see that some of the people actually went on to do things not from my show. Like it wasn't like they were discovered on my show, but they were just talented people
Yeah,
who,
Mhm.
kept at it and then, had that under their belt and then took that experience and just tried to use it later.
yeah,
Uh, so it was cool that, that was one of the things on the show we were very, very adamant about too. Is like, I was like, I want people who are good. Like, I don't want like the half American Idol thing where we show, the William or, the people that, were terrible for
yeah,
entertainment. I was like, I want everybody to be legit. So we went through every person and made sure that we heard some of their original songs. We heard their voices.
yeah.
So that's why like the competition was like, at the end of the day, I was like, that could be a hit song actually. Like, damn.
Yeah, and I think if you look at that's where the integrity of the show lies, is that it
Mm.
didn't take advantage of people who are untalented. It just brought talented people to the fore, right?
Yeah,
And
we took the piss out of the dating part,
yeah,
but the
yeah, yeah.
music part was all real.
But and I think that's a great point of difference. And I think
Mm.
like if you took away some of the MTV production values from the day, because they used to have those real quick cuts, and it'd be like front on
Oh
shot,
yeah.
side shot, and and it was a standard formula when they introduced new people. And if you kind of polish that up, I think that it's got legs today. Like I reckon we
Oh
should
yeah, I
do that.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you?
Bring it back. Let's go.
Yeah. Would
Oh
you be up
yeah,
for doing it again?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the idea actually would stand today. So
Mm, mm.
I think so.
people like dating shows, people like seeing people write songs, and then people like good songs. And then now the only difference is we did not have iTunes then.
Yeah.
So you couldn't hear the song on the show and
Right.
then just buy it right after.
Mm, mm.
So that's something that now you could utilize that you couldn't do then. Is now, if we wrote a hit song for whoever artist that's on the show, because there's so much talented people now
Yeah.
that get access to these things that they didn't have during that time.
Yeah.
Then you have hit songs that come out in real time on iTunes, like The Voice and that kind of thing. Come on, let's do this.
Yeah. It's ahead
Yes.
of its
We're
time.
bringing it back. Score
Yeah.
part two.
Absolutely. I guess, and that immediacy of being able to, like, there's two camps in the music industry. There's people that are kind of a little bit against streaming and the immediacy of being able to get that music, and there's people that are for it. And I guess the one
Mhm.
thing that it does do is show that music is for everyone. And if you find something that turns you on musically, you can go and get it straight away.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it? Like, there's no longer gatekeepers of big record companies or anything. Like, artists have a bit more control. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say so. Depends on your deal, your situation, but for the most part, yeah. I'm really neither here nor there with streaming. It's just one of those things. There's pros and there's cons. Of course, for us, it's trying to figure out how to make money or make new records, which cost a lot of money to make, but yeah, you're not making money from those records. So it's there's like the downside, but then there's the upside of like it's like you said, easy to get. Like tomorrow I could drop a whole album.
Yeah.
And then you just have it. You don't even have to do anything. But personally, I liked going to the store, like you said, getting that CD, reading all the stuff.
Yeah.
I miss all that part.
Yeah, it's one of the great tragedies, I think. But for you, is it I guess where's the money at? Is the money in touring, or is it in albums?
Touring and publishing. And you know what's shocking is that somehow 20 years later, True and On the Way Down still played everywhere.
Yep.
Like it's what like grocery stores, places, restaurants, all this stuff. Like still, go into Walgreens and like check it out.
There I
Kind of
am.
cool.
Yeah.
So it's still 20 years later, it's still being played. So there's definitely that aspect of stuff. But touring is the best way.
Yeah.
So re-recording for the 20th anniversary re-release. What was
Yeah.
how has it changed? What's different in terms of creating, producing, distributing music? What are you finding today versus when you were first starting out? How has it changed?
Well, for the landscape for me has changed because even this goes back to that conversation we had before. When I was in the studio then, it was no thoughts in my brain. It was just make an album. I wasn't overthinking it. I wasn't doubting anything. Um, so then now going back and recording a song with a purpose. So
Mhm.
I wanted to reimagine what would this song sound like today if I had wrote this song today. But since I'm going in with that purpose, there's of course you're gonna overthink everything, but like, okay, where do we take this that it hasn't gone that still makes sense without losing the integrity of the song and the feel of the song, which is what made it a hit. So it was actually really hard. We were at the drawing board for a while trying that. And at one point, it was almost sounding like an EDM song. It was like four on the floor. We're like, is it cool? Like, I don't know if it's cool. I can't tell. Because, obviously I've heard the song the same way for so long. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, man. Let's just, why don't we go back and keep it the same kind of, rhythm, like the drive and the feel, but just like update it and make it, take out the electric guitars and make it a little more organic than, kind of the original, which was more rock pop loop driven. So when we did that, I was like, there it is. Okay, here's a way to hear this song completely different, but still has all the elements of why, if you did like that song, why you liked it.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of the biggest difference of then to now is trying to just thinking too much of like should we do this, should we do that, but then when we got in the groove and we found what we were going to do with it, then it just flew. And then it's like, oh my god, what if we get Taylor Hanson to sing the second verse? And so got him, and then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it could be cool on this. I was like, what about AJ from the Backstreet Boys? Because we were together a couple weeks ago, and he was singing these riffs, and I was like, that's dope as hell. And so then that started to bring new elements of it, and then it all just started to come together, and it just got super fun, just bringing friends in to kind of put their stamp on one of my songs.
Did it, because when you go into record, you obviously have a preconceived idea as to, like, you've got studio time, you've blocked out a book of time, you've booked out a block of time. You need to make the most of that time because time is money and all of that sort of stuff. But then a lot of ideas come on the fly. So what, compared to when you went into the studio, what's the outcome? Was it different to what you thought? Like completely different?
We had no thoughts going in.
Yeah.
So luckily, like one of my favorite producers to work with is this guy Morgan Taylor Reed, who we never have any ideas before we get in the room.
Yeah,
So he
nice.
did my last song RX and the future new stuff that's going to come out soon. He produced all that stuff. So when we go in, we don't really have a time limit other than now having babies.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's go in, see what we come up with, and whatever happens there collectively is what happens. So all those ideas literally happen while you're in the studio, nothing before. That's the kind of way I like it because I like it to be entertaining for myself as well, which the unknown when going into a studio is the entertaining part is like, oh shit, it could be terrible and have a shit day and not come up with anything good.
Mm.
But that's okay. Or it could be an amazing day that you never expected, and that's what makes it fun.
I guess too, digital recording has sort of changed that landscape as well. Like you're not
It's a lot
putting,
quicker. It's a lot quicker now. You can do things a lot faster.
yeah. Yeah, you're not burning tape, you're not cutting things up with razor blades and doing all that
Right.
sort of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
In terms of distribution as well, as someone who's still listening to the same music I listened to 20 years ago, I haven't really gotten amongst the streaming. And an album came out recently or was coming out. And I felt that early 2000s hype of, putting my name down at the record store and waiting for it to be released, how many more sleeps. And then I actually thought, hang on a minute, I don't even know where or how I'm going to access this album. How does this even work today? How can people get the new single? Please tell me it's on single.
I think there might be a plan at some point just to do some fun stuff on the side, like the vinyl kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for now, it's your typical. I think people are, iTunes, Spotify. I guess nowadays the biz kind of runs on these Spotify playlists, which is like kind of the best way to, I guess, access people who may not be specifically searching
Yeah.
for that song. Like if you didn't know, like let's say you were a fan, but you don't follow me on Instagram or whatever, and haven't listened to my albums for some years, and you're like, but then you would have come across it on Spotify playlist. That's where like you really get, because you're like, oh my god, I love his voice, whatever. Let me go check it out. I had no idea that there was even going to be a 20th anniversary on the way down, kind of thing. So
Yep.
I think those playlists are big on how people hear stuff and how they get it. And then I'm sure there's probably 3 or 4 more streaming sites that I don't even know about because I'm not like an internet person.
I'd love a single version because I've got my cassette deck working again. So, if that's in the works, that would
Oh,
be
that'd be
great.
so cool.
But I
That'd be
think I
so
think
cool.
as an artist too, the cool side of streaming too is having access to all that data. So who's listening, how old they
Mhm.
are, where they're listening, what parts of the world they're listening in. It
That
must
part's
be
cool to me.
incredible. Yeah.
Like finding out like where like different parts of the world people are listening to your stuff at that month or whatever. I think that part's so cool.
What's the reach like? Like, is it like, oh wow, like I've got fans in Estonia?
Yeah, there are some random places that you're like, oh my god. Well, so my biggest audience for that is in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Wow.
So which is, yeah, it's wild. And I'm like, I haven't even been to the Philippines,
Yeah.
which is a shame. Like I've been wanting to go for so long. Like I need to go to the Philippines because every year they're always the most listeners I got there. Um, Surprisingly, Australia is actually a big one for us as well,
Mhm.
which is awesome. But that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, oh my god, it's one of those like I'm bigger in the Philippines than I am in the States.
Mate,
Cool. I need to go.
you could do like a tour of Asia. You could
Australia.
I
Philippines,
know.
I love
Australia.
it.
I've been telling them for years. I'm like, we got to get down.
Yeah, we'll show you around. It'll be be great. You show you around Canberra. It's really
Yeah,
exciting.
it's been a minute since I've been out there.
Go to the War Memorial, go to Parliament House. So you have been down here before.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
where you guys? Well, no, not specifically where you guys are, but
No.
I spend a lot of time in like Brisbane and Sydney,
Mhm.
in the Gold Coast.
Yeah,
So I'm definitely familiar.
the cool cities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
You toured
that's all. I was like, where are you guys?
have
What's
you
that?
have you toured here?
Not like under my name. Like back in the day, I did some shows with the Veronicas,
Oh, that's
like
right. Yes.
ages ago, but never like my own tour
Mm,
because they opened for me in the States, and then we'd go to Australia, and they were just huge. I was
Mm.
like, I'll let me play. I was like, I'll play with you guys. Like, hell yeah,
I think you should definitely hit the Philippines up. I like. Have you seen
I
that
agree.
Searching for Sugar Man about the musician
Oh
Rodriguez?
yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
where he found out that he was
love
big
that
in
one.
South Africa. He was big nowhere else. And
Yeah.
huge in South Africa, and he goes over to South Africa, and it's this massive concert. That could be you in the
Can you
Philippines.
imagine? But like, imagine like think just to your point. Like, imagine if he had that then. Like, there's the upside of having something like the data
Mm.
of all that information of knowing like, oh my god, hey guys, like why are we not going? Let's get to the Philippines because there's a lot of fans there. So it'd be something cool for Sugarman, um, or it was Rodriguez.
Yeah,
Something awesome for Rodriguez if he had that data and you didn't have to find out, from like a milk carton or whoever, they eventually got to.
exactly.
Crazy story. If you haven't seen Searching for Sugarman, definitely
It's a
check that
great
out.
film. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing document. And I remember the day after I literally went to the store and bought his album on vinyl
Yeah, Cold
the
Fate.
day after.
Let's talk a bit more about some of the reality TV stuff. Like obviously Score on MTV was a big thing for you. It was reality TV was so massive in the early 2000s. Idol
Yeah,
just started. We'd had one season of Idol, and I think that changed the landscape of music a lot.
I watched the Osbournes. I was guilty.
I love the Osbournes. I loved
Yeah, I loved it.
Ozzy's a
Me too.
hero of mine, you know.
That's what's. I mean, that's what started it all. Because people being like, "Oh my God, I have a window into some celebrities' lives,"
Yeah,
but kind of before like the paparazzi was even a thing, or like those kind of things.
yeah,
But
Yeah,
you
it
were kind
was
of
cool.
immersed in the early reality TV with the Ashley
I
Simpson
was.
show. You guys obviously dating in the early 2000s, and her show came out. I think it was filmed in 2003, came out 2004, and you
Sounds
obviously
about right.
featured in that. And that again, it's still that very early time for reality where it actually was
It was
reality.
actually real. Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly, cameras following you around and capturing the real life. What was it like being part of that in the early days?
That show that was a blast. Like that was just two young kids grow like we lived in the same house, kind of coming up around the same time, and being that age, obviously, being young and just everything was so new and fresh. They literally just followed us around with cameras. So at some point, we literally didn't even realize they were there. Like it
Yeah.
was just us being us. Like whatever happened, happened. And what's kind of cool, I guess, ish for me is like to get the different perspective because obviously fast forward and I was dating someone who happened to be on a different show called The Hills, which was when she asked me, she's like, "You will, if we were going to spend time together, we kind of have to be around this,
Yeah.
show." Ball. I'm like, and then you get there, and I'm like, all right, whatever. I've done this before, and then you have a script and like
Yeah.
what you're doing that day and stuff. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, no, 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 I'm just me.
Yeah.
I was going to be how I'm going to be, and they're like, well, we need you to be, but with this as
Yeah.
well, and I'm like, yeah, not saying that, not saying that, not saying that. I was like, so I just kind of had to navigate through that part. But when you go to like Ashley's show and like in Jessica's show, Newlyweds, that was just cameras around and you forgot they were there, and it's just you forgetting all about it, and then it coming out, I guess, in front of other people as well. And I don't even know what I know. I've seen a lot of clips from some of the episodes, but I don't really know what it even looked like, or I've never
So
seen it.
you never watched any of it or
No, we didn't watch them.
I do
We
remember
just
you
kind of.
getting in trouble on Valentine's Day
oh
for
yeah.
not
Oh
performing a
yeah.
song for Ashley. She was very upset,
Yeah,
and I don't think you gave her a flower either. Hope you've learned from that.
I did. I did.
Valentine's Day coming up.
That became a whole thing because I ended up I did get her flowers actually, but they were waiting for her. I hope it was a surprise for when we got back because we lived in the same apartment complex that I had put whatever. And then when we got home, and then she saw him, was like, "Oh damn! I just gave him so much shit because he didn't get me flowers." And then there they were waiting in the apartment, and
Yeah.
then I was like, uh, I forget what I did. I think I ate one of them, and
Oh
I
God.
like got it was weird. Like it didn't like get me high, but I felt real funny after that. I ate like one of I don't know what was in that flour,
Those
but
diamond
I'm like
pieces or something.
I was like I feel real funny, and I don't know if we should be filming right now because I
Yeah,
don't know what I'm about to say.
man.
So let's cut the cameras for the first time.
Right, it's not Jackass. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's given you obviously great grounding, so that and it speaks to your integrity that you could go onto another show and be like, nah, like I've been through
Mhm.
this before, and
Oh yeah.
there are things that I'm not going to do. A lot of people in that situation, I think, walking in quite naive, wide-eyed, would pretty much do. You can get away with a lot when you point a camera at someone. You can make people.
Yeah, there are a lot of people obviously who, doing it for those reasons
Mm,
kind of things. Like they're doing it either putting themselves as a different person in front of the camera, but then also just caring about just being on camera and like
yeah,
that. Yeah, with that with the latter show, I was like, there's things that I'm just not gonna do. I'll do a couple of these things that to me are fine, but for the most part, that's why you don't see me much on it, because they're like, "Well, we can't use that because you're talking about this." I'm like, ain't my problem.
You ruined the take.
Yeah.
Yeah, ain't gonna do it. I don't even know who half these people that you have me talking about are. I hadn't even met them.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, so, and then but then this person did that, so ask her about this first. I was like, I don't even know who the fuck that is. Oh shit! Sorry, am I allowed to cuss on here? Sorry,
Yeah,
I already.
Absolutely.
mate.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
And
I was like, I just
well,
realized that.
that's all you talk about desired outcomes. Like you've got this attitude where you're going into the studio with no desired outcome. People who make these kind of shows have a very clear timeline as to how they want things to pan out and how they want their story to
Yeah.
unfold.
How are you gonna get to? Yeah, and but there's a difference of the early reality TV and then what I think probably was from a certain specific point,
Yeah.
which I'll leave nameless on. Um, it kind of changed how that worked because they just wanted to get to the storyline, have an arc, and make sure it all worked out.
Yeah.
And I would assume because they're just taking like six people that didn't even know each other and then be like, all right, be entertaining.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe not be that entertaining, kind of boring. So all right, we got to give you a little storyline here.
Got to spice it up. I have been enjoying more recently in terms of your reality appearances, enjoying you on the Mrs. show. Ms.
Oh
and
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mrs. How fun is that to be part of?
one of my well that is a blast because that's another time where we're kind of just getting to be ourselves.
Yeah.
Like those cameras are just filming, and Mike's one of my very first friends in Los Angeles back in like 2002 or 2003 we met.
Oh, wow.
He just came off The Real World, wasn't even a wrestler yet.
Yeah.
But so we've been close along the way. So then when he had that show, he's like, "Hey, I'm doing this. Would you come? Just be yourself. You don't have to do anything. Whatever. Just be on it with us because we're friends anyway." I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah."
Yeah.
I was like, "Anything with you because we just got to have fun."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was such
I'm
a
a massive fan of the Miz. Like, okay, so
the
out
best.
of the closet, huge wrestling fan here. Grew up with wrestling and stuff. So I was actually really excited when I found out we had to speak to you because of your connection
Oh
to business as well.
yeah,
And the
that's
Miz
cool.
is one of my favorites because of the way he came up. And it's interesting that you talk about him. Um, Coming out of the back of the real world and not being a wrestler yet, because he went through Tough Enough, I think, which was a reality show for wrestling, and he is one of the guys in the business that has worked very, very hard to get to where he is, and had to deal with a lot of, I guess, prejudices within that industry to
Of
get to
course.
where he is as well. So his resilience, I mean, what a great friend, like what a great role
And
model.
that's why he's still there and still thriving. And he's just a great person. He's
Mm,
always been like he's the exact opposite of his gimmick. He is couldn't be like more humble of a human being. It's
mm.
really annoying to be that good at everything and then be humble too, which I hope he never hears this because I would never tell him that to his face.
No,
But in reality, he is one of the best humans, and he'll come back from and he's such a great father. Like come back, no sleep, and playing in front of sold out 50,000 stadium, and then the next morning be changing poopy diapers,
yeah.
and just being a good dad. So definitely hats off to him, and he's one of the best.
Yeah, and I guess I mean you. I guess it's we need to talk about your connection to the business, obviously through the Miz as well, and
Yeah,
meeting and marrying Alexa. Uh, I mean, what was it like? Did you feel like you joined the circus when you started dating and then marrying a wrestler? Because it is really that sort of Barnum and Bailey kind
it
of.
is a carny lifestyle.
Yeah,
Yeah. It is. Well, the interesting part is how different it is from all other, businesses and sporting stuff. Because I have a very eclectic, group of friends who all do different things, whether it be whatever sports or, athletes and um, snowboarders, whatever it is. But then you go to this world and it's so far from anything like I've ever been around, that it was very, almost like that. But you learn quickly, what's happening and how it works and all that kind of crazy stuff, which is wild.
Mm. And
But it's cool. It's entertaining for sure.
yeah. So, I mean, both of you have very busy lifestyles. I mean, obviously, Alexa's been off on maternity leave because you've had
Mhm.
a beautiful baby girl. How's all that going?
The days are fantastic.
Yeah.
The nights, not so much. Not so much. I do.
Don't
I
miss
do
those.
miss sleeping. I do miss sleeping at night, but we're literally like the luckiest, and she's like just a happy baby,
Mm.
you know. So amongst that's not sleeping and all that stuff, the most important thing is she's healthy, but she's happy. Like she's always smiling and just loves like hanging out, loves coming on tour,
Yeah.
loves music,
Yeah.
which I'm not surprised, but still you never know because it's not like wherever there's going to be those parents that force anything on her. But you never know. You never like some people will be like, "What if she doesn't like Disney?" And I'm like, "Just we'll cross that when it comes to it." But luckily, she loves Disney, so we're good there. So all things are going well. I think I think she's pretty cool. I think we'll keep her.
Because I mean, well, that's good. That's good to know. Like,
Yeah,
these aren't
yeah,
necessarily compatible with
yeah.
this
I'm in.
spring entertainment kind of lifestyle. So I'm always curious as to how you make that work.
So it's tough, but we because we both do things like that. We obviously wanted her to get kind of accustomed to it, used to it early. So like later, if she was to come, then it's just a nightmare. So she adapted like right away.
Mm.
And it helps that a lot of the other guys on tour have kids as well, and they'll bring their baby. Jacob from O Town just had a baby like a month before Hendrix was born, so that's perfect because then they can play. And so we're lucky that she actually enjoys it, and mom wears her for every show, and she dances, and
Yeah.
she's been doing that since from the beginning.
Yeah,
And your
awesome.
living room setup is incredible. I'd like to have a go. I saw that on the Instagram.
Oh, there's
The ball pit
oh okay.
in
It was
there.
is it is, oh the soft play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Amazing.
took some convincing for a second, which you think it would be the opposite, but it actually took convincing from Lexi with me. So I'm like, so we had her first birthday party, and she was showing me like these big giant soft play things, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. And then we saw the price of what they are, and we're like, that's expensive for a 1 year old, because you're in that mindset like, is this party really for her or is this really for the parents?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she has no idea what's going on. Um, but I'm like, can we just build that? Like, start to piece together stuff. And so I started researching and then finding different things. We put together this dope giant soft play area
Yeah.
for like 1/5 of the price it would be just to even rent it once. So we kind of, made that. And then I'm like, I don't think we can move this anymore because I don't know how to do it and
Yeah.
still stay, so I was like, maybe it stays.
Yeah.
And then we brought her down and now she loves it. So we're like, I guess our dining room is now a giant kids soft play.
Well, that's good. I
Feature
mean,
of that.
And also our living room and also the upstairs mirror. And, and our bedroom is now
mate,
her room.
every dad needs a project, right? You need a project because,
Oh, I'm always building.
yeah. I mean,
I'm always building.
the first few months of when you bring a newborn home, you're like, okay, well, what do I do? You kind of, so you need to have a project.
Oh, me? I'll tell you what, diapers.
Yeah, exactly. They give you a job, and it's usually that,
I'm diaper
right?
dad.
I know.
Yeah.
We talked about the Dave Matthews Band before. I've touched more human shit in the first year of my child's life than I have ever in my lifetime.
It always comes back to shit, doesn't it, with you?
It really does.
Always poo talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
it's something.
mean, that's the
They
reality.
go a lot.
Yeah,
They
they
go a lot.
really do. And you will
Yeah.
remind them about that well up beyond their 21st birthday, I could tell you
Oh,
that.
yeah. I can't believe how much babies fart.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know if it's just my baby or all the time. I'm like, I can't. And then, of course, my wife will be like, was that you or the baby?
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's always the baby.
Maybe.
Yeah, you'd be
Like,
like,
so, yeah, I always blame her. I'm like, Hendrix.
I'd just be like, you will know if it's me. Trust me.
I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I just want to touch on wrestling a little bit more
Of course you
because
do.
Come on.
I'm a mad wrestling fan. What was it like? We know how you've met like Alexa. We've seen some of the stories about that, and it was like
Mhm.
publicists following Twitter and all of that sort of stuff. That's
Yeah.
it's quite a bizarre story, but it's a great story. Where when when you see her out in the ring performing, do you experience any anxiety? Because it is fairly high risk, some of the stuff she does, jumping from the top ropes. And I'm wondering if that then stems across generations. Like, does Hendrix then try to emulate that sort of stuff, standing on the top of the slide, getting ready to dive into the ball
No,
pit?
no. Oh no. No. Oh, she does like in her sleep, like do like big long punches out of nowhere,
Yep.
and a lot of kicks, which
Yep.
is I'm sure fun for Lexi in the womb. But when I'm there, more excitement I think than anxiety. I'm not really a worrier,
Yep.
just at heart. But I just get excited, um, just to see her out there doing and impressed every time too. Because I'm like, how do you do
Yeah.
that?
I
Like
know.
that's insane to me.
And I think too, and definitely been one of the pioneers in this next generation of women that have come through in the women's
Mhm.
division in the wrestling, which is just light and shade compared to what it used to be in the early 2000s, where it was like divas and it was all kind of like bikinis and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like these women are serious athletes doing pretty
Mhm.
serious things. And I have found watching a lot of the pay-per-views that they've upstaged a lot of the guys with some of the stuff they've done. So, I mean, you must be proud seeing that sort of stuff.
Oh, of course. Oh my God, absolutely. And it's. I wish she could hear you right now.
Right.
She'd be so excited. Um, yeah, no, they definitely she has, and it's cool to see it evolve and then be headlining, WrestleManias,
Yeah.
or headlining SummerSlams and stuff like that. Um, it's yeah, it's sick.
Did you know about the double jointed elbow?
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't know about it until she showed me,
Yeah.
and then showed me the match where she used it. I think on Sasha. I think it
Yeah,
was
yeah, it
where
was
it looked
Sasha
like it
Banks.
was blah blah.
Yeah.
And then she did. I'm like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Put it
Nope,
back
I don't like
in.
it.
That
Yeah,
is one of
it
the
looks so
coolest
real.
is one of the coolest things I have seen in a match
Yeah,
where she just threw the double jointed elbow out
yeah,
and like Sasha's looking at her like, oh my God, I've broken her arm.
yeah,
And then
yeah. And
Alexa,
then comes back and bam,
so good. Like
gotcha, bitch.
I stood up on the couch. I was like, oh God, and that's what
No,
it's about, those big
it's
moments.
genius. And I love and then my favorite thing is when she would throw like the temper tantrums in the ring and stuff at the ref. I was like, what the hell? I think she told me the story of where I was from. And I was like, that's so cool, such a great idea. She has
Yeah.
great instincts, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. A wonderful performer. And I mean, I just think you guys are the best couple. I think it's great.
Oh, thank you.
Have you ever seen you obviously go to matches, but I guess schedules and stuff. Do you get to see much of her compete? I mean, it's
Yeah,
fun,
luckily,
obviously.
what our schedules somehow, even from when we met, always aligned.
Yeah.
Like I would be when we met, like I was like going to Chicago to do the Thanksgiving Day parade, and she had a show in Chicago that Monday, and so we met up then, and then the next whatever in New York, I was doing some press or something in New York, and she was at Madison Square Garden. So it just like kept happening and happening, and we would always try to kind of be like, okay, where are we close enough to where I could either pop over to see one of your shows, or you can pop over to see one of my shows. Um, and I've also been, going to see Mike, and I've been going to his manias for like 15 years. And anytime he's in town, I always go checking his stuff out. So I was already going, even prior. In fact, I have a couple moments. One, me and Lex were right next to each other, didn't know each other on the blue carpet, for premiere on Fox or whatever. We were literally, there's videos of us right next to each other, didn't know who each other was,
Yeah.
getting interviews right next to each other. And then after we actually, got to know each other a bit, I was showing her something I was like, you weren't at this mania, because I was at this mania. And I was like, I wonder what times I've been at things, seen you
Yeah.
in the ring or be on the same red carpet and not know like, oh, one day I'm going to marry you. Kind of like didn't even coming to, the mind. But so like she looked, I was like, you weren't at this mania, because I would have remembered, like the beautiful blonde girl looking like you getting in that ring. Like I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah,
like, no, I was at the mania. And so she looked at my phone. I had video of Hulk Hogan coming out, and she's like, see the girl next to Hulk Hogan with the microphone hosting WrestleMania? I'm like, yeah. In my phone, she's like, that's me. I'm like,
yeah,
oh shit. I was like,
Wow.
so I got videos of you in my phone. So like the stories are pretty funny.
yeah, yeah. And are you
Didn't
planning?
even know it.
I mean, are you planning on writing a song anytime soon? I know Bowling for Soup have. So
I know. And that's well. At that time, I wrote. There was a song called "Worth It."
yeah,
It was the first song that I wrote about her.
yeah, yeah. Which is, I think, probably a much better fit than say Bowling for Soup, if I'm being honest with you, mate.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I love those boys. That was another thing we had in common too. We both were big fans and friends with the band.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, 1985 has probably become the anthem of our life, which is a
Yes.
little bit of a shame sitting over here. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what 40 years ago, 30 years ago. How long ago is that?
it's
40,
40 years.
40 years ago.
Still 20 in my mind.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I know. Thanks for making us all feel old,
Yeah,
Ryan. Well done, man.
that would be like basically that would be like 2004 for if they did a song now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'd have to be in comparison. Crazy.
Yes, indeed. Now, the fans in wrestling, are they treating you nice? Are they being kind to you? Because they are very dedicated fans.
Oh, very passionate. Yeah.
Yeah, very passionate. It's like anything. It's there's always gonna be people who hate it,
Hmm.
and then there's people who love it. So just like anything else, there's always gonna be them haters. But
Yeah.
it's all good.
You're not inspired
Kind
to,
of just
I mean,
block
just
that
with your
stuff out.
connections with Mike and that, you're not inspired to be part of a storyline or anything in the near future.
Nope,
No, no,
no. I
no.
stay in my lane. I know where I do not thrive, and it's there.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I was looking at the footage of the wedding too, seeing like Mike and Nia Jax coming up the aisle and then later on. I mean, that was an amazing day for you guys.
Oh, it's
You
the
had
best.
anything
It was a
performing.
2 day, a 3 day. It was a 3 day spectacle. We had a golf tournament, and then
Wow.
the wedding, and then the post wedding party.
Yeah, yeah.
It was 3 days of good times.
Man, talk about living your best
Yeah.
life. Hey.
Now, something that we ask everyone who comes on our show is if you could rewind back 20 years, so back to 2005 Ryan, and you could bump into
Okay.
2005 Ryan and offer him some advice, what advice would you give him?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's crazy because you thought at the time you're doing it, but at that time for me it would be, um, like enjoy what's happening that day and stop worrying about what you have on the schedule tomorrow, kind
Mm,
of thing. Because and I always tried to be like, appreciate everything that you're doing, and I did, of course, but like when it happens so fast because all these things are moving, so many things are happening that you kind of along the way, at some point, I kind of just forget, even if it's for a day, you forget of how, like, even on the bad days, like, how lucky you are to do what you're doing, and
yeah.
or how lucky you are just to be alive. That it's like, this is a great day. Every day is a great day if you're breathing. So it was just like, enjoy that day and stop worrying about the interview you have to do at 4 in the morning tomorrow, because tomorrow is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that would I think that would be it.
Ryan, it's been an absolute honor having you on the
Yeah, thank
show.
you guys for having me.
It
Thank you for
really,
This was
and
joining.
thanks
awesome.
for dedicating so much of your precious time to talking to little old us. Like we
No,
really
it's
do appreciate it. And
of
the
course.
new single is out this week at
30,
time of
30,
recording.
yeah, 31st.
Yeah,
of Jan.
31st.
Yeah.
Yep.
31st of Jan.
So get on
Finally doing it.
right.
Finally do it. I recorded it early last year, and so a lot of stuff came up, but so stoked to finally be able to put this out.
It's excellent timing. It works well for us. Get onto your streaming services and download a copy of Ryan's latest single, well, not latest single, but redone single,
Re-release.
latest version.
Yeah, reimagined. 20-year anniversary of On the Way Down, reimagined.
Relive the magic in it. I'm not going to say new and improved, but a better, different. Just go and check it out. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you
so
guys.
much.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for waking up early too.